Alrighty. So thank you again. And I can't say enough about Eagle and how strong you guys are as far as a partner in the territory, covering such a large territory for Commvault here in the Midwest. So thank you to you guys for putting this on and getting us in here to talk about the Hyperscale appliance. So everybody, thanks for attending today. As Patrick said, I'm Bill Roberts. I'm the territory engineer for Kansas and Missouri, covering all of the Commvault solutions that we deliver here for SLED, healthcare, and enterprise altogether. So today I'm going to talk to you about the Hyperscale appliance. Several years ago, we seen this trend of the appliance. Before we had purpose-built appliances, and now we're going to these all-in-ones. So Commvault started developing this really around 5 main areas that customers have asked us to solve for them. They like Commvault, they want to use Commvault, but Commvault was always a hardware neutral solution, so you could put it on anything you wanted to. A lot of times that back-end infrastructure to run Commvault on became very complex, very tedious to manage. The resiliency wasn't always there because of the products chosen. And then, from a support standpoint, we would troubleshoot our software to as far as we could go, and then we had to have somebody else help troubleshoot any hardware issues that might come up. And what our customers came back and said was, it's great that you guys can run on top of anything, but that comes with a cost. So they ask us to actually simplify it, right? So easy to set up, easy to manage, easy to upgrade, solution from Commvault. So Commvault is in the hardware business now, and we will sell you an appliance. It's built modularly, so you buy what you need. And when you need it, it's resilient in and of itself, so you can lose any component and still keep operating. You call us for support. So you call Commvault, you don't call anybody else. And if we need to dispatch somebody, we have a service that can dispatch to replace parts. And then at the end of the day, really it's about being able to make it simpler and lower the total cost of management. And we'll get into how the product works here. So what we've done is come up with a Hyperscale appliance. The Hyperscale appliance is a 3-node Commvault solution. It's 3 1U servers. Each server has 4 hard drives. These are our sizes and usable, so 32, 48, 64, and 80. Everything that Commvault could do before is here. So backing up your virtualization products. And that's more than just VMware and Hyper-V. We protect Red Hat and Nutanix. We protect workloads in Amazon, Oracle, Google, and AWS or Azure, and a few other on-prem solutions like Docker as well. So the system is highly available, so you can lose one node or multiple drives in the solution, and the system keeps running. Excuse me. Self-healing. So if something fails, basically, if a drive fails, we replace the drive. You don't have to do anything. It goes in and starts rebuilding. If you have to replace a whole node, you pull the old node out, you put the new one in, you get an IP address set on it, and it ingests itself into the architecture and redistributes the data. So there's no single point of failure. It is a scale-out architecture, which means I can stack these. So, if you deploy an 80 or you deploy a 48 to start with, and you're growing, and next year you need to add 80 terabytes more of backend, we drop in a 3-node with 80, and it redistributes the data. At the time of refresh, basically you put in a replacement for the box you're going to pull out, it redistributes the data, and you take the old appliance out. So there's no more large data migrations, as was the previous traditional architecture, the scale-up architecture, where you would come in, you would deploy new media agents and new backend storage, you do a Knox copy from the old storage to the new storage, and then you could decommission the old one. No more doing that. Just drop the new nodes in, let it self-distribute, and pull the old ones out.
Hey, Bill, let me jump in real quick and just remind everybody that if they have any questions about any of the things we cover here, go ahead and hit us up in the chat. Write your question. We'll get to that immediately. if it's relevant to the conversation, or we'll take the questions at the end as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So again, the simplified buying model. So you're buying what you need when you need it. Traditionally, in the traditional scale-up model, you would go out and you would buy the servers and the storage needed for 3 to 5 years worth of growth. In the new model, you buy it as you need it. So you might deploy 2 of these nodes, 2 of these appliances, and then add a third one down the road, somewhere in between. Commvault is offering this uniquely as a subscription pricing, so the hardware and the software all wrapped together in a 3-year subscription. There's options for a 4th and a 5th. If you keep renewing your subscription every 3 years, you get a hardware refresh. So as your subscription runs at the 3rd year, we'll send you new boxes. You'll put them online. The data will redistribute, and you'll pull the old ones off. So gives you the best of being able to figure out what your cost is and what it's going to be in the future. So the Hyperscale appliance is pretty straightforward. I've done several POCs here in the territory. Eagle is actually one of our partners that actually has an appliance. So I believe that last week they got it online and brought it up, and they're starting their testing in their lab today, or last week.
Yes, sir. That was it was a lot of fun, actually. I've been really excited to be playing with this, tearing it up, tearing it apart, and making sure everything works just like they say it works. So we're definitely doing that.
Yeah. So basically, from unboxing it to racking and stacking it, you're going to put some IP addresses on each node. You're going to run through an install. It's going to come online. If you're a brand new customer to Commvault, the Hyperscale, everything's included in the box. The management console, the reporting tools, the storage, the media agents, all of that's in the box. If you're an existing customer, we have a unique way of doing it, because most of our existing customers, I'll tell you today, have their CommServe, which is our management server, virtualized in their VMware or Hyper-V environment. They may still have a physical. We can deploy this. They can continue using their current software that they've already invested in, and we can deploy this just as the data target. So they can put these in, replace their old media agents in their traditional scale-up storage, and get into a scale-out model. So the appliance comes direct out of the box with our new interface. So current customers out there, if you haven't seen this, we need to get with you and show it. You have it available to you today. So it is an HTML5 interface. The old Java console is still there. It will be phased out over the next couple years here, and this is what it looks like. The best thing about the new HTML5 console that I like is and I've used the product for over 17 years as a customer before I came to Commvault. When you log into the console, right there in the very first page is the dashboard, so it tells you everything that you really need to know. We're showing customers how to put this up in their NOCs so that they can just have it online. So how many servers are being protected, how many jobs are running, if there's any errors going on, if they've created their SLAs, are they meeting their SLAs? We're showing you the storage utilization and the backup sizes. And most importantly, probably even there is the restore summary, right? So we're telling you as restores are being done, how many successfuls, how many faileds, and how many killed are out there, and what do we need to do to go clean on those. It is an interactive dashboard, so you can click anywhere on here. It'll drill down into the pieces, so that you can get that reporting out of there.
Hey, Bill, we got
Yes,
a question. Is this admin console based as part of the Hyperscale solution, or is it part of Commvault in general?
It is a part of Commvault in general. This is the Commvault new interface. By default, it comes as the standard interface on the new Hyperscale appliances. If you're a current Commvault customer, and you're on the latest service packs, we can get this turned on and get you guys started training on it and using it right away. Okay.
Thanks.
So So this kind of breaks it out, right? Fast. All the technologies Commvault's had for a very, very long time, backing up their virtualization, IntelliSnap, so array management, talking directly to arrays using their snapshot technologies as the source of the data protection, cloud integration with all the different cloud providers we support, search, e-discovery, all of these things, the Commvault appliance can be the target and the manager for. There are some different pieces that are not in there, like content indexing, that requires a search node, but that can be a virtual machine today. So that's not built in there yet. So the appliance is really the management and the storage target for you. If we're doing some other things, we'll require some other pieces, and we can walk through those. But really, it was to answer the question around storage. So we can tape out. We can go to cloud. We have integration with IntelliSnap, so the snapshot management piece as well for your different storage arrays. So, this is a good slide here from the standpoint of what we protect, right? So from a storage hardware, we have integration with over 25 large and different storage providers. They're not all, I'm not capable of getting them all on this page, right? So, and we add them quite often. So we just had new storage providers from an IntelliSnap standpoint added to the latest service pack that came out on March 15th. So, and the same thing with apps and what we're protecting. We have the broadest support in the market for the different apps. A lot of my competitors only do one or two of the virtualization targets. They use different tool sets to protect at the application level. All of ours is integrated. So we work with Microsoft, we work with Oracle, SAP, and those guys to make sure that we're protecting the data in the way that they want to see it from a supportability standpoint, versus just a lump of coal that we have to use a tool to go extract the diamond out of. And we're pretty quick. Most of our products, as most of our vendors, as they release new versions of their software, within the next service pack, we've got support for it. So Microsoft SQL, the next version of SQL comes out at the end of the month. If it comes out at the end of the month, we'll support it by the next service pack. Hypervisor. So, we definitely have the broadest support from a hypervisor standpoint. I don't know of anybody that can do as much as we can with the different versions of hypervisors out there. Large files, big data. So if you've got Greenplums, Teradatas, we have support around being able to protect that data. Large NAS implementations. And then the exciting thing for Commvault over the last several years is, how are we protecting data when we put it in the cloud for the customers, right? So just because we put data in the cloud doesn't mean it's always protected the way that it needs to be for your compliance and your reasons. So Commvault's developed and worked with all the partners out there to start protecting it. Salesforce, Salesforce is down. How do we at least run some queries and run some reports out of there so that we know we got some data? Office 365, Exchange. So we cover online Exchange, we cover OneDrive, SharePoint Online, and so on. So like I said, again, from your data types, we have the largest coverage out there to protect that data. So in summary, and this was a short deck because we're talking about the Hyperscale appliance, and when we're talking about this, we really want to emphasize that it really is easy. It's highly available and resilient, single call support. So you call Commvault. If there's a drive failure, you call Commvault. We'll dispatch somebody with the drive. If we're having a node offline, you call us. We'll help you get it back online, and we'll dispatch somebody to come out and take care of it. Easy to deploy and manage. And scale, we can stack them. So we can stack these up to meet your needs. And we'll talk about an additional piece here in a second. So again, we are the industry-leading data management solution. Now we have a scale-out file system so that we can actually start protecting that data, your data, in a turnkey appliance. We're really removing complexity from the data management operations by putting this all in an appliance view. Doing it this way, we're getting rid of that complicated back-end storage that you use in the traditional models. And it actually puts you guys in control of your data management operations. So you make the choices of when you want to and how you want to grow this solution. So So kind of the appliance hardware config, like we showed earlier in the beginning, it's a 1U server, 3 nodes minimum. You add them in 3 nodes. So it's not a traditional hyperscale solution like you're used to in virtualization. Our solution, that's why ours is called hyperscale. We're building it out in 3 node increments. It's a Intel Xeon, 96 gigs of RAM, enough SSD to manage the dedupe and the indexing, 4 hard drives so we can get to the capacity. It is 2 10 gig Ethernets. One is internal, so we can move data between the nodes, and one is external. So we deploy this, you get 3 10 gig ports to your side that we can ingest data from. Optional fiber channel and SAS cards for tape out are LAN-free backups with IntelliSnap.
Hey, Bill, you mentioned the dedupe database and living on those Intel cards. Question is, how does this dedupe database get affected by the failure of a node? What happens when it's down and when it comes back?
Yeah, no problem. So this is one of the biggest reasons why we have developed this. So the dedupe database, there will be 2 dedupe databases per node. We're using erasure coding and different things to protect those dedupe databases across all 3 nodes. So if you lose a node, the database isn't gone. It's just going to come back up on a different node. The data in the dedupe database is available via a different node until that failed node response. We're also doing different kinds of backup to protect them, self-protecting our dedupe databases so we can make those available online. And all the dedupe databases, again, they're spread across the 3 nodes, are available for ingest. One of the biggest differences from Commvault versus my competitors is I do not need the dedupe database to do a restore. So if a node is down and something has happened to the dedupe database, the data can still be recovered that was sent through that dedupe database. But we will either have to restore from our backup or rebuild, basically baseline a new dedupe database. To bring it back online so you can start ingesting. Another dedupe database in the node can take over for it until that database is back online. So it makes it very, very simple, less hectic around the corruption of the dedupe databases.
So during a failure, protection isn't affected because we're still running on those other 2 nodes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So to manage through that, again, 2 terabytes per 2 terabytes of SSD for the index and the dedupe databases, and 6 dedupe databases for the 3 nodes is made available. When you add 3 more nodes, we take 3 of those dedupe databases and spread them across all 6. So there's 6 dedupe databases across 6 nodes when you add 4, 5, and 6. So.
And how would this compare or contrast against the partition extended model of dedupe database with the traditional?
So the biggest difference is on a traditional scale up when we build on Windows or Linux, a dedupe database on Windows or Linux, we're using a partition segment. If you lose a server and that dedupe database, that partition of the dedupe database is down, the other dedupe databases can take over for it. But what it will do is if there is data that database hasn't seen yet, it'll just baseline that small chunk. Whereas in the hyperscale appliance, because we're self-protecting those drives with erasure coding across the cluster, we will be able to support every node knows about every entry in the databases. So there's no necessarily reason for baseline.
That's a real win there.
Yeah. So that is that portion of it. The only thing that I was going to mention above and beyond that, so that is our hyperscale appliance. For larger customers that are going to go and deploy that need more than 80 terabytes backend, say they're at the 240, 500 terabytes and above, we do have the ability to take the software and remove it from our hardware and put it on a reference architecture for many of our vendors. So Eagle, you guys do Dell. We have a reference architecture for Dell. We have a reference architecture for HP. We have reference architecture for Cisco and Lenovo, and Supermicro even. So we have that ability on large deployments And the reason why you might consider that would be just the sheer number of rack units, the sheer number of 10 gig Ethernet ports, because I can get very dense. So in a 3-node, 24 drive reference architecture, I can put 480 terabytes instead of 80. So we can get very dense with the reference architecture. Same things apply. An ISO gets loaded on the servers. It's less than an hour to get it online and make it available. It works the exact same way. It's just with the hardware of choice for the scale. Not that we can't stack these. We can stack these and make it there. It's just every time we stack another one, we need 6 more 10 gig Ethernet ports. We need 3 more rack units. We need all of those things. So we do have the flexibility to deploy it in a way that makes sense. And that's where Eagle comes in. They're very good at the math. They'll walk you through what that looks like to make that work for you. So, okay.
Bill, what about extended retention? This is a performance-based appliance. Would we want to segregate our extended retention, and do we have the ability to do that?
So that is something that we've been talking about for a very long time, Patrick, right? How to take that old stale data and get it out of the performance solution, right? So we do have the ability to do that with the appliance or the hyperscale. We can extend that out to tape. We can extend that out to other disk appliances like it just escaped me, like a Verde from SpectraLogic. So basically a NAS target. Or we can put it in the cloud. So if you're keeping monthly fulls for 7 years, we'll take those monthly fulls, send them to the cloud, get them off of the performance solution for the that are being used for the recovery all the time, and store them someplace else. That keeps the first copy target in a really clean and fresh cycle. It makes migration down the road easier, and we can still recover it. So you don't have to have an appliance on each side. You can have an appliance and the cloud. You can have an appliance and a different storage target that can be mounted. So, or tape.
Okay, so another question is, these the media agents that run in the hyperscale solution are Linux-based. Are there any compatibility issues if you had an existing Windows media agents and you implemented hyperscale in an existing environment?
So, like I said earlier, we develop our solutions around growth. We don't look for third-party products to do things that we can do natively. So, if these are, as you said, these are built on Linux. If I need to do a granular recovery from a Windows virtual machine, I need a Windows VSA proxy, right? So, basically, a Windows virtual machine that will mount and be able to read that data. The reason being is there's a few products out there that allow Linux to read NTFS. If we were to implement those, then we are beholden to their development schedule and their bug fixes. By doing it the way we're doing it, it allows us to have not be beholden to another product dev cycle for us to be able to do those recoveries. We're taking care of it on our own. So that's really the biggest caveat is if you have Windows virtualization that we're protecting, you need a Windows VSA proxy, which can be virtualized to be able to do a file level recovery. It's very similar in the past. We did it the opposite way when we were running Windows media agents and VSA proxies. You wanted to do a Linux file recovery, you had to have what we called a FREL, a Linux. Basically, it was a Linux virtual machine that allowed us to mount the native file system of Linux to be able to do the file level recovery.
Okay.
And those are deployed as the Windows one. We would need a Windows license and things like that. The Linux side, we deploy those as an ISO.
So another question is, how is the hardware supported from a firmware and update standpoint from a hardware system?
So we manage that. So at the service packs for the appliances are about a month behind the traditional software. The reason for that is we're patching the underlying OS, we're patching the firmware if needed as well. So March 15th, we just released Service Pack 11 for Commvault. Sometime in April, we'll release the service pack for the appliances to get them to service pack 11. So we'll manage all that through our system.
And any critical hot fixes? Is there
at the OS layer and all the way through, right? So this is Red Hat Enterprise. So we have a license agreement with Red Hat Enterprise and for the OS and the Gluster and KVM. So KVM on a new customer, KVM is loaded. The CommServe is running inside KVM. So the management server is highly available across any of the 3 nodes. So we're protecting all of that. So the Windows license for the CommServe, the Red Hat license for Red Hat OS, and the Gluster license for the Gluster file system.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? Feel free to add them into the chat. So is there any roadmap for you? You mentioned that these run on 10 gig ports. Is there any 1 gig support currently, or are they looking to do 1 gig support?
So my understanding right now is that the data that moves between the nodes. So if it comes in through the first node and we make a copy with erasure coding, that all continues to have to be on 10 gig. These servers already have 1 gig ports on them. Dev is looking at the ability to have 1 gig on the ingest side for smaller sites. So it's in the development cycle. I don't know as far as a roadmap whether it's on a roadmap to be released, but Dev is currently looking at that ability.
Okay. So how are hardware and OS updates handled for a reference architecture that's not the appliance itself?
So customers would be because the customers are supplying the hardware from the reference architecture side. They would take care of the firmware updates on the hardware. The Red Hat, because we're still deploying Red Hat, we're still licensing the Red Hat and the Gluster file system. That is all still managed via Commvault.
All right. Again, feel free to post any additional questions in the chat if you have them. So are you able to expand by adding just a single node, or how does the scale out work from a node perspective? Because
we're using erasure coding, we have to expand in 3 nodes. Because of the erasure coding algorithm, we're doing a by default, if you deploy 3 nodes, it's a 4+2. If you deploy 6 nodes at the very beginning, you have the option of doing 4+2 or doing 8+4 for your protection mechanism under erasure coding. So we do have to deploy it in 3 nodes, but you don't have to deploy the same size. So you can start with, like I said, a 48. You can add an 80 later. The drive sizes in the 3 nodes have to be the exact same, but across different blocks they don't have to be. So you're buying the size that you need for the time at the time that you're buying it. So again, you can start with an 80 and then add a 32 later, or vice versa. Start with a 32 and add an 80 later. And that's back-end data. This is something to think about too. So that's back-end data. That's disk size, right? Is that 80 terabytes? You know, our dedupe sits on top of that. So we're putting way more than 80 terabytes of backup in there because we're deduping it and then writing into the disk. Average customers are in that 10 to 20 to 1 if you're used to it like that, or that 85 to 90% dedupe savings, right? So even at 10 to 1, an 80 terabyte usable is somewhere, you know, just under 800 terabytes of backup data that's being stored. So very efficient deduplication process, now married with a very resilient and easy to use backend disk, makes it simple to put your retention on these boxes.
So is there any plans to continue to add additional capacities based on increased disk capacity in the near future?
So yes, today we have in the appliance, we have the what is it, 4, 8, and 10, 4, 6, 8, and 10. We do have in the reference architecture, we do support 12 terabyte drives. We haven't put those in the appliance yet because of the availability of them. And as the 16 and the 20 terabytes come out over the next year or two, I see us adding those pretty quickly. So I would say that next year you're going to see bigger sizes based on the drive capabilities. So
if we want to keep a second copy of this, of our backup data, does it have to be, if we have a DR site, do we have to have a hyperscale appliance at both locations?
no. So Commvault can still write data to any solution. So just because you deploy your primary copy on hyperscale does not mean you cannot put it on something different. And again, it could be a traditional build-up model. It could be cloud. It could be a NAS. Whatever traditional libraries that we write to, we can write your secondary copy to. So you do not need an appliance on both sides to make it work.
From an agent perspective, all agents are included. Is there some sort of add-on from a license standpoint to back up different workloads?
So we sell this, again, like I said, we sell this in two versions. We sell it as a net new customer. It does come with all the backup agents from that. So you'll get your Windows and your Linux and your AIX. You'll get all those agents. You'll get your different hypervisors. That's all supported in there and delivered. You'll get your applications like SQL, Oracle, Exchange, SharePoint, so on. We have an add-on licensing that we can from an agent standpoint because we might be able to do something a little bit better. So mailbox licensing for doing Office 365 and those. And it also comes with our archiving license as well. So if you're doing file system archiving, that's included in the product as well. So.
I think we're running out of questions, Bill.
Okay. Well, the last thing I'd like to say is if any of the customers or any of the prospects on the webinar, first, thank you for joining. We do have the ability to POC these. Literally, I just sent my POC back, 2 weeks ago. We had it at the Tech Forum event.
Yep.
We sent it right back. I sent it back so I can get it back out here. The more people that want to POC it, the longer it stays in my territory. We can get it out there. The POC takes, literally, it's 30 minutes to fire it up and bring it online. If you have it for a week, you'll be able to play with it, see it, how it works, make that work, and we'll clean it up and pull it back, and then you can make your decision. And again, you guys now have a box. I know you're in the lab just beating it up right now,
yep.
But eventually it'll be available. You guys will be able to POC it as well.
Most definitely.
So, okay.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. Please let us know if you have any further questions. Gail, I think she'll be following up perhaps with a survey or just a thank you for attending. Please reach out to us if you have any questions we haven't answered today. If you'd like to set up a POC or a meeting surrounding Hyperscale, we're definitely ready to talk about it, both in person or on a remote session if need be. Bill, do you have anything else to add?
No, again, just thanks for the people taking the time to come visit with us this morning, and looking forward to talking to them and explaining more of the technology.
Most definitely. All right, thanks everyone. Gail, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
No, not really. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining, and those of you who hung on the line with us for this webinar. You'll obviously be seeing email from me with your Starbucks gift card, so look for that, and have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thanks, Gail.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.